Welcome back to another edition of Through the Smoke, a Miami Hurricanes football and recruiting podcast here on the 24/7 Sports Network. David Lake, joined as always by Gabby Urrutia. We are opening up the mailbag here in this episode. Asked our subscribers on InsideTheU.com to shoot us some questions that you wanted us to discuss on the podcast here today. And so we're here to have some good discussion on some interesting topics, I think. We'll get into it here in a little bit. Of course, want to highlight two of our sponsors here on the front end, starting with Canes Connection. That, of course, is Miami's collective. We hype up how they play a significant role in Miami's trajectory right now. Top 5 team in the country. Looks like a top 5 roster in the country. Canes Connection and their efforts played a significant role in that. So support them, canesconnection.com. It's crucially vital to have a strong collective in today's college football landscape. Canes Connection does a terrific job. Also, want to highlight our guy, Nick Musarino of Musarino Law. If you've been injured in a slip and fall, boating accident, trucking accident, Uber accident, or just a general car accident, Nick Musarino is the personal injury attorney you should contact at 561-960-9870 or visit the website at floridaflinjury.law. That's flinjury.law. All right, Gabby, let's just dive into these questions, man. Let's start with Benjay Touthray, who asks, thoughts on the first 2 weeks of college football, thoughts on the ACC teams, how they're looking, thoughts on early Heisman picks. So again, it's only 2 weeks. So, I would take all of this with a grain of salt because we're going to learn so much more about these teams through October, honestly. I think once you get to November, you kind of have a better idea of how teams are looking. And look, I think a lot of these teams that I'm going to name, frankly, we still have to learn more about them, particularly at the quarterback position. But to me, Gabby, like if I'm talking about like college football teams on a national scale that kind of have my attention in terms of like a college football playoff type of deal, I would say, of course, I think Ohio State has to be there. Yes, Julian Sayin has to keep improving as the season progresses. If he does, Ohio State's going to be right there. Penn State, yeah, they played with their food a little bit against FIU, but they certainly have the roster to make that type of run. LSU had the impressive win at Clemson in week 1. They also have the roster to get the job done. Oregon is looking good, against lesser opponents, but they're handling business. Miami, to me, is in that conversation, of course. Georgia, we'll see how Gunnar Stockton settles in when SEC play starts. Texas, Arch Manning, I feel like, everything he does gets hyper analyzed. But if he settles in and finds a rhythm, Texas is going to be for real. Notre Dame, I would put there too. If CJ Carr settles in, gets going, Notre Dame has the roster to be right there. And look, I think you got to give credit to FSU. Do I necessarily think they're on that type of level? I think they're a tier down, but certainly they've started the season very fast. And so we'll see if they can continue that. At like an extreme dark horse college football playoff side of things for me, Gabby, like Utah's impressing. I
Yeah.
kind of like what their identity is, physicality, line of scrimmage. They got the running quarterback that can present problems. And look, USC hasn't really played anyone yet, so let's see what it looks like when they start playing real teams. But USC is intriguing to me as like another dark horse team that I don't know if they're ranked yet, but uh, from what I've seen, the little clips of them so far, they got some talent. So on a national scale, that's kind of my thoughts. Look, I think it's wide open. I don't think,
Yeah.
and we got to learn a lot about these teams. But anything you would add or push back on from what I said? Would you put Clemson there still, or do you have Clemson falling off?
I have Clemson falling off a little bit. I think another just like interesting team is Oklahoma, just because of the quarterback, with John
Yeah,
Mateer. Like That's another one that I think we're going to learn a lot more about as the season progresses. But I think that's an impressive win over Michigan. That Oklahoma team struggled bad a year ago. And I think getting a win like that at home is a big deal as they kind of try to, correct this offense and talk about really just all this whole landscape. I'm trying to pin down like who's the favorite to win the national championship this year, and it's hard. Like if you're setting odds on this thing, like I still feel like there's not a team that I've watched yet where it's just like, all right, these guys are a buzzsaw. Like no one's gonna beat these guys.
Right.
Like I think that this is as wide open of a year as there has kind of been. I think obviously there are teams that, are in that A tier and that B tier, and however you want to divide that up and where you want to draw the line, I think is always up for debate. But I think from a Miami perspective, it's a good year to have a good year because again, I think this is one of those years that you can spot the ball and with some of these top tier teams and I feel like it could truly be a coin flip which way some of these games could go. So yeah, you mentioned Notre Dame still being in that top tier. I agree. Like I think that Notre Dame team is really good and really talented and they're going to play some really good football this year. So yeah, I think Oklahoma is another team that I'm interested in seeing how it kind of progresses as far as just like a big picture, maybe outside of the top tier, maybe outside of even, I don't know where you want to put them, even within that second tier. Illinois is another kind of dark horse. Like I thought that they showed some impressive things against Duke. They have a veteran team and a ton of continuity. Like, could they make some noise in the Big Ten? It's going to be interesting for sure. And I think just within the context of the ACC too, it's to me like as wide open as ever, just because
How would you
Clemson.
tier it? ACC.
I would put probably Miami, FSU at the top. Um, I would probably put Clemson in like that second tier, maybe by themselves. And then then it's like some combination of like Louisville, SMU, maybe
Georgia
Cal,
Tech.
yeah, Georgia Tech, Cal is going. Georgia Tech and Clemson play this weekend, right? Like I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a really important ACC game because I think coming into the season, some people thought that could be a potential like ACC championship matchup. Georgia Tech kind of being that ACC dark horse. So I think that's going to be an interesting ACC game, and I think it'll be an opportunity for us to learn more about Clemson and more about Georgia Tech because I think both those teams, Georgia Tech went to Colorado a couple weeks ago, and it certainly wasn't perfect, but we got the Haynes King kind of experience, and that was
Yeah.
fun. He's a good player. Yeah, that's kind of how I would divvy it up, David. I don't know how you would kind of, I think the ACC is two, three team league potentially. Maybe Georgia Tech has the most like potential to shake it up. I wasn't super impressed with Louisville. Haven't been super impressed with SMU. Uh, so I mean, I don't know. I don't really know where those guys stand in the big picture of everything.
I'd still put, I mean, I would put Miami and Clemson in that top tier. I would now add Florida State to that top tier.
Yeah,
So I'd put three teams there. To me, Georgia Tech is fourth,
yeah,
and then 5 through 10 is like pick a name out of a hat.
yeah.
So, look, I am interested to see how Clemson responds this week against Georgia Tech. To me, look, up to this point, they have not been impressive. Um, to me, this is typically the spot in recent years, not when Clemson was dominant, but in recent years where Clemson's kind of been like this 10-win type of team. This is the spot where, okay, you doubt Clemson. Like, is this the year Clemson drops off dramatically, right? Like that talk kind of starts bubbling up a little bit. And then Dabo comes out and handles business and they win in an impressive fashion against a pretty good team.
Yeah,
That's good enough to beat them. Like I do think Georgia Tech's good enough to beat them.
for sure.
I think if Georgia Tech does pull it off, to me, that's more of an indication that okay, Clemson really is just kind of falling off this year, rather than Georgia Tech's legit. Even though that will be an impressive win for Georgia Tech, um, I kind of think Clemson's going to handle business this week, but let's see. I mean, through 2 weeks they have not looked good. How about Heisman? For me, like I think you got to put Carson Beck in there. I
Yeah.
mean, he's like second in odds right now, and I think if Miami continues to be what we think they're going to be, he's looking like he's going to be a finalist. Who else would you put there?
Yeah, I think John Mateer early on
Yeah.
is an interesting one. I mean, he has like kind of like he has the two turnovers. but he's already got 3 rushing touchdowns. He's got 4 passing touchdowns. So, he's someone that can just kind of stuff the stat sheet. And if Oklahoma, again, plays good football, he's going to be someone that's going to be up there because of the way that he impacts the game with
He's
his
fun
legs
too.
too. Yeah.
Like
And he's a
the
buzzy,
buzz.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a buzzy quarterback. So I think he's always going to be in the conversation. And again, it's super early in the season, and these stats are all out of whack because it could be a huge performance against an FCS team or whatever the case is, and then you kind of just level off. So it's hard enough again to kind of pin it, but I think Carson Beck's definitely in that conversation. I think John Mateer's definitely in that conversation. There's other guys like for Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love just had the one game against Miami that it didn't work, but like he still has an entire body of work that he can put in and flip the script. Like he has Heisman candidate potential. So we'll see what that looks like down the line. Um, I don't know, man. It's interesting to me, like Garrett Nussmeier, maybe just quarterback of a team that I think is going to be really, really
Yeah.
good. I think that he's someone that could potentially be in that conversation. It's to me again this year. I have just a ton of just question marks of what's this thing going to look like by the time we get to mid October, November, because it seems like there's a few potential outcomes of this college football season, the Heisman conversation, all of it.
I'd probably like I think there's value too in Jeremiah Smith. Like,
Yeah,
typically the Heisman's a quarterback award. But Jeremiah Smith right now has the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, ninth best odds, or tied for sixth best odds, seventh best odds at plus 1800. So by comparison, Garrett Nussmeier is plus 900. So I find that interesting just because he is the best player in the country and
yeah,
he's
that's a
gonna
good one.
he's gonna get it going.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's way early. We're gonna find a lot out here through October. We'll revisit this during one of our bye weeks coming up here. Miami's got 2 bye weeks before the month of November. So we'll revisit these national ACC Heisman landscape type of ideas coming up. Next question comes from JBlack334, who asks, what is something you would like to see more from this team that they're not doing that you thought they would be doing better? So for me, like I didn't answer this in like a schematic type of way. To me, this is just like areas where I think the team needs to keep improving. Um, I'll run through mine, Gabby. You can agree, disagree.
yeah,
If you have fresh stuff too, throw in your ideas. Number one to me, tight end play. And look, it's a high standard at Miami. Um, but I don't think we've seen number one, I don't think we've seen the best of that group. I think they can perform better, so that's kind of why I'm putting them in this category. Elijah Lofton, does he look right? To me, he looks a little banged up. That's just me, what my eyes show me. Um, Alex Bauman to me is fine. He's solid in his role. To me, like Luca Gilbert's going to be a stud, but he's a freshman, playing a line of scrimmage type of position, which is tough for a true freshman to play, but man, he looks the part. And I think maybe by the end of the year, we see more of him regularly. Brock Schott looks explosive and powerful against Bethune. But when he had the ball in his hands, you could see some of that ability. Just in general, I think tight end play from a blocking standpoint, too. I think there's more there, more meat on the bone to improve. To me, also, and again, I recognize some of this is nitpicking, but speed threat on the outside, like CJ Daniels is awesome, but he's been a contested catch machine here through these first 2 weeks. And that's great. He's made amazing catches in that regard. But what happens when those 50-50 balls start going the other way and they're incompletions instead of amazing catches, right? Also, like I think it's going to happen at some point during the season where you just need to generate an explosive play to either put a team away or get back in a game. And I'm curious where that explosive element comes from in the passing game. Someone needs to emerge, in my opinion. Setting the edge on defense, I think, has maybe been the number one thing that like hasn't been good by Miami here through these first 2 weeks. Uh, Miami was kind of lucky that Notre Dame really didn't exploit that much during the week one win. But when Notre Dame did kind of get to the edges, things got scary. I think Miami got helped by some holding penalties too, but setting the edge is an area, a big area that needs to be improved in my mind. This is nitpicky too. Linebackers in coverage, at to some extent it is what it is. Like linebackers in coverage is never going to be ideal. To me, maybe you got to find ways to get Bobby Pruitt on the field more and improve that. And then to me, Gabby, like third down defense, or sorry, not third down, third defensive tackle needs to step up. Justin Scott, let's go. It we need to, he needs to flash more to me. Armando Blunt, he was held out of the Bethune game. He needs to flash more to me. They have the talent, they have the ability. I think David Blaze been phenomenal. I think Ahmad Moten has flashed. You notice him, but they need a third and really a fourth D tackle to start showing up, in my opinion. That would be my list.
Yeah, I mean those are all fair. I think those are all very, very fair points. And again, this team has been really good. I think
Yeah.
we're picking at a team that's ranked in the top five right now. But I think that those are all extremely valid. I think just something too, and I think maybe it's just more about just what we saw last year. And I think just the couple times that it kind of showed up in the Notre Dame game, just like sort of, and I think it kind of goes back to your linebackers in coverage point, just like the busts in coverage where those things have a chance to happen. And I think those things are going to happen,
Yeah.
occasionally. I think it's probably just a little fresh and, not wanting to see a kind of slow tight end busting out a 60 something yard play. You don't want to see those things. And then even on the kind of like the scramble drill, CJ Carr touchdown wide open, those things are hard. I get that that's hard to defend, but I think those are
Did you
situations where you can
see
try to clean it up.
did you see what Hetherman said about
Yeah,
that?
about how Bryce Fitzgerald saw like basically corrected that like in a week as far as just like it was a similar situation and then it's crazy watching like the high angle of that play and just how quickly Bryce
Dude,
Fitzgerald flies across the field
it's
to make
unreal.
that play. That's one of like the most probably that's probably one of the most instinctual like impressive like ball just pure ball skill plays that I think I've seen in my time doing this. It was very, very impressive how quickly he reacted and moved to make that play.
Yeah.
Like I was standing in the end zone by himself. Like, when the quarterback makes that throw, that guy's just standing there, like kind of just layup touchdown. And Fitzgerald just comes flying. He's gonna be really, really talented. And again, I think there's areas of his game that need to improve, but what he does extremely well, which is that, is highly impressive. And we clean and he clean if he helps clean those types of things up, then yeah, here
Oh
for
yeah.
it.
He took a touchdown off the board.
Yeah,
Take
exactly.
Taking the ball away is
Is massive.
the number one thing on
Of course.
defense, honestly.
Of
So,
course. Yeah.
but um, those would
I
be the
think
areas I would highlight. Anything
Yeah,
else?
yeah. I think just again, this is probably a little bit nitpicky, but this is just more of just like the Notre Dame game stuff. I think they did a good job of running the ball, but I think just running the ball just more like being better at running the ball more consistently. With Mark Fletcher, I think in the Bethune game it was great, and Marty Brown. But I think when we start playing some of these, again, Power Four FBS opponents, I just think being able to establish like truly establishing the run game where you're consistently kind of winning at the line of scrimmage is going to be impactful too. And they did it well, and there were moments where it looked good, but then there were also moments where it kind of stalled, especially in the back half of that Notre Dame game. So I think it's just going to be important for Miami to continue improving, the way that they run the ball.
I wonder too, like what a healthy Jordan Lyle means for that. Because
Yeah.
I'm with you. Like you do want to see a little bit more of an explosive element in
Yeah.
the run game. Um, I think that would be Jordan Lyle ideally, but he got hurt early against Notre Dame. So
Yeah.
when he gets back going, let's see if he does add that element to the run game. If he does, I'm feeling okay about it.
Right.
Um,
I'm not
that
super concerned about it. I just think
No, I
these
know.
are,
I think what you're saying is fair. They need to be more explosive running the ball. I think that's fair to say. A2 Mondo asks, what weakness are you concerned about for each Florida matchup in the next month, and how concerned are you? So I think he's asking from a Miami perspective, what can the opponent do to Miami, and what's your concern level about it? So For me, Gabby, like let's just go game by game. USF, the thing that concerns me is, USF plays at a high tempo when they
Yeah.
get rolling, no huddle, fast tempo. That demands a lot of communication on the back end, which, as we know, was an area Miami struggled significantly with last year. So that's going to really test Miami this Saturday. It's been a point of emphasis to improve all off season, but we're going to actually see if it is improved this week, I think, with the tempo. Also, just from a formation standpoint, they spread you out wide across the field, demand a defense to tackle in space, which is always difficult to do. So those would be my concerns with USF. I would put that at like a 6.
Okay. Yeah, I think with USF, I think apart from that is just the Byron Brown factor, just the mobile quarterback who's a
Yeah.
tank. Like, you watch what he did against Boise State, the way he sought contact, he ran through contact, the way he's just dropping his shoulders into guys and just kind of continuing to chug along. He is a big, strong runner, and I think that that's going to be a unique challenge. And not only is he a strong runner, but he's kind of starting to add, and I think we saw it a little bit last year when we were kind of coming to the game, we kind of talked about it, but he can kind of throw the ball downfield. I don't think he's a perfect passer by any means,
Yeah.
but
He can
he
throw it.
has, yeah, he has a big arm and he wants to take some shots downfield. I think they did it against Florida for a long touchdown. I think against Boise, they hit a long touchdown, or to the Tennessee transfer that he was just chugging it downfield. Took another shot at him too. So Byron Brown wants to deliver the ball on some of those deep shots. So apart from just having to worry about just like the physicality that it takes to get him on the ground, the way he's able to kind of elude pressure and just get out of some messy situations and just kind of he turned some of those plays again. I think it's against Boise State. He turned one of the situations he was basically dead to rights into a touchdown run. He's extremely impressive as an athlete and as a runner, and it's important. It's going to be important to get him on the ground and contain that, and then on the outside just be able to man up, and when he does take those shots, contest them because those could create explosive plays in the pass game that are tough to kind of deal with if you're playing a USF team like this. Yeah, my concern meter, I don't know. I guess like a 5. Like I think that Miami. I don't know. I'm watching USF. They're a good team, obviously, and they have 2 impressive wins. But I think they're. I think this is a pretty manageable situation for Miami. Obviously, they got to come play. I don't know about that 17 and a half, 18 and a half point spread, but this is a game that Miami should win.
Yeah. I think concern meter is more the weakness for this
Oh, got
matchup.
it.
You
Got
know
it.
what I mean?
Okay.
Not the
Yeah.
game overall.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, I'm with you on Byron Brown. To me, like you just got to make him a passer. Like
Yep.
you're right that he's a deep ball guy, but can he pass it? Can he when he
No,
needs to make intermediate throws? Can he do that?
he
That's where my
struggles.
right. That's what Miami needs to force him to be able to do. To me, like, and one tricky thing about facing a guy like a Byron Brown is, you know, how much man coverage can you play against a quarterback like him? You got to play zones, I think, to keep your eyes at the quarterback. And if he tries to take off and scramble, you can react to that. But then also when you play zones, your communication has to be on point again. So they're going to test. They're tricky with their scheme. They run a scheme that Miami doesn't really see much, and they're going to test Miami early. I mean, last year's game was 50-15,
Yeah,
but it was a close game through the first half.
definitely.
Florida, to me, man, like the thing I'm concerned about with Florida is just like DJ Lagway finding his rhythm. Like
Mhm.
he's clearly rusty right now. He didn't throw it all off season with his shoulder/calf thing. And I do think it's a matter of time before he finds a rhythm and starts clicking. Will that happen by the Miami game? We'll find out. But that's something that concerns me. I think the revenge factor in general, like Florida's going to give Miami their best shot because of what happened last year in their house. And there's always something to that in the sport of football. I also think just in general too, man, like I think they're the most talented team left on Miami's schedule, and I don't think it's close. Like I think roster-wise, they have the best roster Miami still has to play on this schedule. Are they using the roster correctly? That's where I think the breakdown for Florida happens. And look, I think you need to respect UF's defense. Going back to the roster, like they allowed USF to only score 16 points because two of those points came on a safety, right? So uh, I think, Gabby, if I told you, like, hey, Miami is holding USF this week to 16 points, you're taking that all day long, right?
100%.
So the defense did their job. They're a talented group on that side of the ball. Uh, I would say my concern level is at a 7 just based on the roster. Like I do think the roster is talented. I think the roster is, I think Florida's offensive line has not been as good as what they were hyped to be this offseason. And DJ Lagway has not produced like he was hyped to be this offseason. I think Lagway can figure it out. I'm a little skeptical on the offensive line, quite frankly. But they are a talented team and look, we've seen Miami lose to much lesser talented teams over the last 3 years.
Yeah. What I wrote for Florida, a talented enough roster to win and things clicking for DJ Lagway. Like
Yeah.
again, they haven't shown that yet as far as just what DJ Lagway's done, and that offense definitely seems out of sync. But like I mean I watched the Florida USF game and I mean for me personally I feel like for a lot of the time like Florida felt like the better team. I don't know, like Florida's
Should
clearly
have
the
won by
better
two
team.
touchdowns.
Yeah,
Two
easily.
touchdowns.
They had like two or three touchdowns wiped off the board. They
Yeah.
had a drop by a tight end that was a walk-in touchdown. I think they scored two touchdowns that got called back for holding penalties. On that and last USF drive that they had a big play that kind of set them up in field goal range. Like USF got away with a pretty significant hold, I think, on that play. That I don't like that wasn't again not saying that USF didn't go out there and earn it and win that game, but like I think Florida was the better team in that game. Um, like that's a talented team, and they got a lot of really good players on both sides of the ball. They have explosive players and fast, speedy players on offense. Vernell Brown looks like the real deal as a freshman. They got fast guys like Eugene Wilson, and they have like that power running game with Jaden Ball and
He's
24.
good.
Yeah, he's a good player. Like he's gonna be a lot to deal with, and yeah, they got a good front. They have a good SEC sized front, and like there's a lot, and I think this is also going to be a big week for UF too because they have to bounce back from this and then go to LSU and play a very inspired Brian Kelly led Tigers team that is kind of hunting for blood because I think that they're a true national title contenders. So I think we're going to learn a lot more about how Florida responds to this weekend. And then there's
I'd be surprised if they don't play well. I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but
yeah.
I think they'll be in the game.
Yeah. And then they're gonna come back down. They're gonna come down here, and what we always
Right.
say with these rivalries, it's like you gotta throw away all the other stuff. There's a lot that's at stake with some of these in-state rivalries, especially as schools that are recruiting the same talent pool, especially on the top end of it. These guys want the same kind of players, the same level of players, and there's a lot that's at stake from that perspective of it too. So Florida is absolutely gonna give Miami I still think it's going to be a really good game. Like the outcome of the USF game doesn't change the way that I view that Florida game. Like I still think that that's outside of Notre Dame. I think that's the toughest game that Miami will play this season.
FSU, look, I think going back to my point about setting the edge defensively, FSU with Gus Malzahn, they're going to run those jet sweep actions all game long with guys that are really fast, like Jalen Lucas, Makai Danzy. Those guys are fast. They can get around that edge and generate explosive. And then in addition to that, right, you got the ultimate running quarterback in Thomas Castellanos. They have an identity. They're playing with a lot of confidence right now. I don't frankly think much of FSU's defense from a talent standpoint, but their 3-3-5 that they run is tricky to deal with for 1 week. I don't know if they have much of a pass rush to really give Miami issues either. And this game is on the road. I would say concern with all these points, I'd put it like a 7.
Yeah, I think similar concerns, and just glossing through FSU's schedule. Obviously they handled business against Alabama, who looks like a shell of themselves, but still credit to FSU for getting that done. East
It's a good
Texas
win.
A&M, they got Kent State, and they got Virginia before Miami. So obviously tested in that Alabama game. I think again that's another team we still have to learn a lot about to see what like what they look like down the line and ultimately what that win will mean. But of course, that's huge for them. But I think one, they're going to be, I don't know, like it feels like they're going to be in a situation where they haven't really played a lot of like tough games outside of that Alabama game. And then Virginia is kind of, again, I think middle of the pack ACC team. We'll see what that kind of looks like for them and what that situation looks like when they kind of start getting into conference play. But yeah, I mean, all those, I think FSU is a good team. To your point, they have an identity and what they do on offense and what they do with Gus Malzahn. It seems like it's just a good fit personnel wise offensively. And yeah, we'll see about the defense. I still think there's a lot that we need to figure out about that defense and what it looks like against an offense that kind of has a pulse. But yeah,
Virginia. I think
yeah.
Virginia, that could be a
Chandler Moore,
shootout.
a little Chandler Morris action. We'll see what Chandler Morris does. That was a fun game, like
Yeah.
the Virginia NC State non-conference ACC game. That was a
Yep.
interesting little plot twist of. I didn't realize that was happening until like the day of. Um, but anyways, yeah, they scored like 40 points on NC State, right? It was a pretty high scoring game.
Close to 40. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see what that game provides, and I think that'll be a nice little, I think that'll be a nice little data point or just kind of a new marker on what FSU looks like when they kind of have to play a conference team after, three straight, obviously impressive weeks. I'm assuming they're going to handle business against Kent State this weekend. So
Yeah.
curious what they look like against Virginia for sure.
Go Canes asks, can you do a lightning fast schedule breakdown now that we have some eyes on the opponents? Similar to the piece you guys did before this season. Sure. So USF, tough out. For me personally, like I don't know if they're honestly like better than I thought at the start of the year. I think this is kind of what I thought they were, and they're winning games. So I don't know. Anything else to add there?
No, I mean, again, I do think it's a good group of five team. I think it's a good
Yeah,
test, and this will be a nice. Again, at the end of the day, they're an 18th ranked team. So if Miami
yeah.
handles business, it's good for the resume for Miami to play and win a game like this. So, but yes, they're a feisty team that's gonna be a tough out.
UF not as good as I expected. There's no excuse to lose to USF. Again, it's just like poor execution in the red zone, drops, bad personnel usage, uh, poor technique and fundamentals, poor game management at the end by Billy Napier too. So
Lack
yeah,
of
they're
discipline.
they're just not as good. But they are talented, and teams like that on any given week can pop up and be dangerous. So
Yep.
that's what I'd say about them. FSU, much better than I expected. Playing hard, athletic team. I don't know if it's overly talented, but they are a team that has a lot of belief, and that matters in college football.
Yep.
Louisville, soft on the lines. Miller Moss hasn't clicked yet, it seems, but I think if there is a coach that can find a way to get his quarterback to click, it's Jeff Brom. So we'll see what it looks like when Miami plays them in about a month or so. The skill talent's very good.
Very good.
Stanford lost to Hawaii, lost to BYU, may not win a game this year, frankly.
Yeah,
Like
it's gonna be bad.
they're going to be
Tough sledding for the trees.
at SMU. Look, man, I think they're missing Brashard Smith, that run threat. I think they're missing UM's defensive lineman that they had last year up front on defense. There just seems to be more on Kevin Jennings' plate this year, and he's been a little erratic. Like he is a playmaker, but he's also erratic at times. Shout out to Romello Brinson, who is performing well
Yeah,
for them though
it's like
this year.
top five in the country in receiving yards right now.
He's producing big time, but they're about what I thought they were.
Hmm.
I don't know. I thought this is what they were going to be, but we'll see. Maybe they find a rhythm and start clicking more. Syracuse, big drop off to me, kind of
Oof.
as expected. You agree?
Bad, 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 bad.
NC State, to me, they're going to be like, to me, they're this year's Syracuse in some ways. I think they have the potential to score a lot of points, and they have a defense that doesn't provide much resistance. So they kind of lean into that. Okay, our offense has got to win us games. They have a good quarter. CJ Bailey, Shaman Madonna product. He is fun to watch. And it looks like he's taking that next step. We'll see. It's only been 2 weeks, but their offense is dangerous. And, the difference with that Syracuse matchup, of course, is this NC State game is at Miami. But then on you know with that you're going to have the CJ Bailey homecoming story, and he's going to want to show up the local team that kind of overlooked him, frankly, in the recruiting process. At Virginia Tech, to me, they're just a bad football team. Um, I think they're going to be a rough looking outfit in late November. And then at Pittsburgh to wrap things up, to me, this is going to be, we kind of said like this is an annoying matchup at the end of the season. I still feel that way.
Yep.
Got a long ways to go in terms of what, we'll learn more about them. But to me, they're just kind of like a good, well rounded team. Like their offense is pretty good. They got some dudes on defense. It's going to be a tough game to wrap up the year. So, in general, like UF not quite as good, but still dangerous. FSU much better than I thought. Um, I feel like everyone else, by and large, is kind of who we expected. Again, it's only through 2 weeks, so we'll see how it plays out. Grogs26 says re-rank Miami's toughest games based on what we know through the first 2 weeks. I just want to keep this at the top five toughest opponents
Yeah.
remaining on the schedule. Let's go with number one. Who you got?
I got Florida.
I do too. And it just comes down to the roster for me. Like, will this end up being the toughest game? To me, that boils down to like whether or not they're still here for playing for Billy
Yeah.
Napier.
Might have
If
a different answer this time next week.
correct. Um, but if they're still playing hard for Billy Napier, I think they're still the toughest team.
Yeah.
Number two,
Florida State.
same.
Yeah.
Road game element, you could make the argument like, okay, that should be number one. And also they're just, they're playing with that belief, which I think there is something to that. Number three, who you got?
I might go Louisville.
I'm going Louisville. I think that skill talent makes them dangerous. They could be explosive on any given week, especially if Miller Moss settles in. If Miller Moss doesn't settle in, maybe you slide Louisville down a little bit, but I'm still going to put them at three. Number four.
I'm gonna go at Pitt. Danger zone.
Yeah,
End of the
we're
season.
we're identical.
Wow.
So,
We did not talk about this, so
number five.
I'm gonna go USF.
Okay. I'm
There
gonna
again.
go. I'm gonna go NC State.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you could also put SMU there if
Yeah.
you
I think number
still
five is a
believe in it.
toss-up for me. I'm leaning into the top 20 matchup.
Sure.
Gotta show the Bulls some respect.
All right. Quick recruiting. Carson55 asks if Miami were to flip someone right now,
Ooh.
who do you think it would be?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that there are a few potential options. I think James Johnson, the defensive tackle from Northwestern, is an interesting situation because Texas, it looks like, is about to lose a defensive tackle commit to Auburn in Corey Wells. So how much resources does Texas
Right.
pour into retaining and making sure James Johnson doesn't go anywhere? I think that's something to kind of
He's
monitor.
also already flipped.
Yeah, he's also already flipped, so like on the table. And yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a guy. Um, I think Tank Jones, the Oregon commit, I think that there's some buzz there that he came down and visited. He's from Alabama. I think the general sense, just what I got through the summer, and I think we were kind of buzzing it like, hey, this is a real situation, and then it just wasn't. It kind of seems like it kind of fell off the earth. Like Miami was left out of the final three. I never got the vibe over the summer that Oregon was like, the preferred destination, and that's where he ended up. So maybe just some legs here, some opportunity to continue to make moves here, and I think he's someone that Miami would definitely be excited about. A couple other guys, like Lakai Tompkins at IMG Academy. Again, I don't know what exactly the vision is for him. You hear defense from some people you talk to. Some people think he could stick at running back. I think at the bottom line is Miami just wants that kid in their program, and they will figure it out later. But I know that there's a lot of value on a guy like that. You also got like the Calvin Russells, the receivers, and I don't know what he's gonna. I don't know how he ends up at Syracuse. I think that is a tough situation to sign up for if you are someone like Calvin Russell. So
If
I
he
think
doesn't
that's
go to Syracuse, who are the schools you'd be like, okay, these are the schools in the mix here?
I would probably assume it's Miami. I mean, everyone talked about the Michigan stuff too. That's another one. I don't know if I was totally buying all of that. Um, I would assume it's Miami. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see the FSU or
Right.
Florida or some situation like that. kind of come up and potentially, make that interesting. But that's one that I definitely don't think is worth writing off. And there's a few other guys, I think Miami's definitely still involved and engaged with guys like Bryce Perry Wright, the defensive tackle out of Buford, Georgia. I would say that's probably, I said it over the summer, this was Miami's top interior defensive line target. I think that that is still the case. Tyreek Green, the Georgia safety commit, is someone I know Miami's still being extremely active with. I think that, there's still some extremely positive dialogue going on there. I wouldn't be surprised to see something brewing, if Miami's able to kind of find a way to wedge the door open from Georgia there. But yeah, there's definitely some flip options, and I think flips will happen. We'll see what that potentially looks like.
T_K ask, with how well Samson is playing and the fact he's graduated early, do you guys see him declaring for the draft? So, look, I think number one, the thing that needs to be said here is credit to Samson for sticking with the process, working his tail off, showing the willingness to kick inside and play guard. To me, like he's demonstrated that he has an elite mentality, a winner's mentality. And this is why ultimately, like over the long run of his career, whatever it is, he's going to succeed. Uh, but look, he as it relates to the NFL draft, like he still needs to show a lot more. And frankly, like for me, he still needs to like earn a starting job and he probably still needs another year of playing at the college level next year at Miami. But there's no doubt like his development, the way he's come along this year is very encouraging. And you know, he's the type of guy that you root for because he's stuck with the process, hasn't been drama. Of course, everyone knows he was a five-star recruit, and typically those guys bail if they don't get much
Mhm.
playing time here in the first few years. He stuck with it. He said, "No, Miami's still the best place for me to get developed and become the best player I can be." And now he's getting on the field and showing what he can do.
I think it's super big time for Samson Okunlola to be approaching his development this way. Because to your point, in this day and age, he is a pretty rare case of 5-star goes somewhere, kind of, gets placed on the shelf because maybe they're not as far along as everyone anticipated they would be, sticking with it, handling his business, on and off the field, graduated in 2.5 years, incredible stuff. And then just basically immersing himself into things. What, this is year 3 for him, and he's essentially a co-starter. I mean, he cracked the rotation. He's a regular part of things now, and he's playing well. Yeah, I don't think he's going to go to the NFL this year because I think if he's gone this far with it, I think he understands that there's a way to another kind of step for him, which is being a full-time starter. And I think he will play plenty, but I think coming back to Miami for another season and playing a full season, whether that be at guard, which I think is probably where it's
Yeah,
trending at this point, um, and again, I think it's just really good news as you project the 2026 offensive line, right? Because
yeah,
Mario Cristobal keeps talking about it. Hey, we're going to lose guys after the season. We're potentially going to lose 4 or 5 starters after the season. Like, you need guys. And if you project Matthew McCoy potentially coming back and playing left tackle, and then Samson Okunlola playing left guard, with a guy like Jackson Cantwell potentially coming in at right tackle, Tommy Kinsler. Like, it feels like there's answers on this offensive line for the 2026 offensive line, even though there's going to be obviously some significant turnover. Samson Okunlola, I would imagine, sticks with this and follows through, and
yeah.
comes back and returns as a full-time starter in 2026.
Yep. It's a great development for this year
Yes.
too. Just, having the 6, 7 offensive linemen because chances are like Miami's guys are tough and they play through injuries, but on that position group, injuries are going to happen, and sometimes you're not able to play through it. And having a guy like Samson you can plug in is big time. MJC Miami asks, does Miami treat every opponent this year the same this year? Do you think that overall there are more player leaders this year than last year? So I think the question is basically asking like in the month of November, is Miami going to handle business?
Yeah.
Are they going to show up to play? Look, to me, showing up to play and getting a win are two different things. I think Miami showed up to play against Georgia Tech. I think they showed up to play against Syracuse. Now, they didn't get it done with getting wins, but I don't think it was necessarily because they didn't take Georgia Tech and Syracuse seriously. To me, that's my opinion. I don't know. But I think it's a fair question in terms of like, does this team have the leadership to navigate a season? Last year, Cam Ward was kind of that alpha leader for the whole team. This year, things look a little bit different. Um, I do think, like in general, the leadership is sprinkled a little bit more around the team. I think CJ Daniels has emerged as a big time leader for the offense. The offensive line group is a big time leader. Carson Beck is a leader. Mark Fletcher. Honestly, like I think Malachi Tony's a leader, just the
Mhm.
way he goes about his
Handle the
business.
business.
Akeem Mesidor, Ruben Bain, Motore. Keontae Scott, I think, is a pretty big leader in the secondary. I think Jacoby Thomas is also that guy too. This is an older team.
Yeah.
And, this is the team, the guys that were on the team last year, they got a taste of winning 10 games and they faltered at the end of the season with the college football playoff spot on the line. But I think the returning guys are hungry to take that next step. And so I do think the leadership is in a good spot in terms of like making sure everything is handled and on point from a focus and approach standpoint.
Absolutely. I think that this is a team that's, I think, just wired a little bit differently because I think that people understand too just the importance of finishing. I think that's been just such a huge point of emphasis is just like finishing at the end of the season. Like there's just so much value to that. And we've talked about this before, but this is a roster outside of all of those factors and the leadership and all that stuff. I just think the roster is constructed in a way to last. It's not a you need Cam Ward to play at an exceptional level because he has to make up for whatever horridness is going to happen on defense. Like, I think that this is a team that plays complementary football, or we've seen to this point they've played complementary football, and I think have the potential to play that down the line. And I think that helps things just kind of be more even keeled going to any given week. It's not just like a hey, it's on you or it's not happening. Even in the Georgia Tech game, for example, it's not like they're taking Georgia Tech lightly, but on the day where the offense wasn't really on point, you need the defense to step up. And I think that this team is more capable of things like that, of picking each other up and figuring it all out as a team. And you're going to run into those situations when you're in a tight game that you didn't really expect to be tight in. And again, I think that this roster is built in a way to navigate and manage those types of situations, especially deeper in the season.
If Dorset could catch asks, are you concerned about Jojo Trader? Are you expecting him to be a significant contributor this season? Look, I think it's fair to talk about Jojo Trader in this way. Like I wish he was pushing to be a contributor because talent wise, he is to me first or second most talented player at that position group. But succeeding and producing takes more than just being talented. Number one, you have to be available,
Right.
which has probably been JoJo's biggest issue since he arrived at Miami, just being available, whatever that means. Number two, you got to be a pro in every way possible. And this is just, to me, like part of the maturation process of young players when they get to college. The guys like Malachi Tony are extremely rare. Guys that are just pros from day one, get it, understand it, willing to work at it, and able to produce. Like that's rare. To me, like if you're JoJo, you gotta look at CJ Daniels, see how he goes about his business, and do the same things. Your life, like especially in a Mario Cristobal program, you have to eat, sleep, breathe football. And so, are you that guy? If you're not that guy, Mario is recruiting a bunch of other dudes at your position that are that guy, and they're gonna not let you play because they're gonna do all the little things that allow them to be successful. So I think there's some room for improvement in that regard as it relates to Jojo Trader. I'm not willing to say at this point that he's not going to be a significant contributor. I think we'll have a better idea about that answer maybe after the Louisville game. So let's see. But I'll say this, like I think it's best for the team if he responds, if Jojo Trader responds, steps up and emerges as, in that top three receiver spot, because To me, a wide receiver trio of CJ Daniels, Malachi Tony, and a producing Jojo Trader, that's pretty nice.
Super.
And I think that threatens the defense in a significant way.
Yeah, and especially as like you mentioned in the back half of the season, as you kind of just continue to push this thing forward, I think Keelan Marion has done a really good job. I think he's done I think he's done a serviceable job on that CJ Daniels touchdown. That the first touchdown, I mean, Keelan Marion would have had he could have had a walk-in touchdown on that play too. He was just wide open. Um, and the way he's been able to kind of even challenge and stretch the field in that Notre Dame game, not by generating an explosive catch, but by creating the separation where he basically got tugged down to avoid a touchdown. But Jojo Trader being in a spot like that, if he's humming, if he's at his best, is I think he's a different type of guy. And but again, we need to see it, and we just haven't. We saw the flashes of it in that bowl game, and we know what's
Yeah.
there. But if you're not gonna, if you can't get on the field, if you can't be available to play, it's hard. You can't depend on people like that. So for me, I'm just in wait and see mode. That's where I'm at with it. It doesn't seem like this offense can't function without him. I think,
Right.
like to your point, it would be better if he was available and producing because he's so talented. But to me, I think that there are answers on this offense where, like you're saying, Miami's going to continue to recruit. They're going to bring in guys. There are answers on this offense where if for whatever situation or reason he's not able to get on the field, like I think there are other people that are willing to step up and make the most of opportunities and capitalize. So we'll just see where it goes. I'm here for Jojo Trader.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna wait on it any longer.
Right. And there's also, Josh Moore, right? He's
Yeah,
pushing to get on the field too.
definitely.
Benjay Touthray asks, do you think Kamal Bonner will still have the same impact you predicted in the spring? So for people that need a reminder, Kamal Bonner was a transfer addition, in the spring portal window from NC State. And I think, before the season, you and I both expected he would legitimately challenge Wesley Bassett for the starting job. I would say no right now. I don't think he's going to have the impact maybe I expected. I do think he's banged up just from seeing him on the sideline at the Bethune game, not dressed out. He's clearly banged up. But even if he's not banged up, he's just not going to challenge Wesley Bassett. Wesley took his game to, you know, another level, I think. And I don't know if Kamal Bonner's, I think he's important from a depth standpoint. Um, but like, is he really going to challenge Wesley to be a starter like maybe I expected? I don't think that's going to happen. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I also think he's just banged up. Like I don't even think
Yeah.
he suited up for the Bethune-Cookman game.
Yeah.
Like,
He didn't.
I think he's dealing with like a hamstring. And look, you look at the kid physically, and again, I think he checks off a lot of those boxes of what a good player could be. He's also still kind of young.
Yeah.
I think he's what, a redshirt sophomore or
Long
something like that.
term is a different
Yeah,
conversation,
he could
but
still realistically be here a
taking
couple more
Wesley's
years.
job, I
Yeah,
don't think
no,
that's
I
happening.
don't think I definitely don't think that's going to happen. But I think he
Yeah.
could, if he gets healthy and he plays and he kind of gets into form, I think he has a chance to be like a
Sure.
quality
I'm with you.
rotational player. And that like those guys matter. Like you need
Yeah.
that, especially at the linebacker position, which probably in better shape than I thought. As far as just maybe
We'll
depth
see.
wise, yeah, I guess we'll find out. But maybe I'm just saying that because I feel like we've gone a little bit more from Popo Aguirre than maybe I anticipated. But yeah, I still think Kamal Bonner is someone that can contribute if he gets healthy potentially this season and beyond. We'll see. But I still think he's a good player.
Drew411 asks, watching the first 2 weeks of Miami and knowing this is Mario's most complete roster since he arrived at Miami, do you now expect a deep playoff run? If not, why? So let's call like a deep playoff run, a Final Four run. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
Eh, Look, I think Miami's certainly good enough to do that. So, there's a lot of variables at play. Like,
for
I'm
sure.
not predicting that because there's a long way to go. But like health, what's your college football playoff draw look like? Does Miami get a bye week? Like, these are all things that enter significantly into that
Right.
equation. But like roster wise, is Miami's roster good enough to be in the Final Four right now? Yeah, I think so.
Agreed.
Benjay Touthray This is an interesting one for you, Gabby.
Yeah.
How would you rank OJ Frederick against all of the top corners Miami missed on the last 2 to 3 years? So, any names like Ellis Robinson, right, who was a
Yeah.
five-star guy, ended up going to Georgia.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I was going back through, some of these names and uh I mean, missed on Xavier Lucas, so I don't know
Yeah,
if I don't know if he counts, but and then it's guys like Xavier Mincy who ended up kind of developing into a safety, so doesn't really count. Honestly, I mean,
it counts. I
as
mean,
far as just like what
they're
it
not corners.
yeah, exactly. Not a corner anymore, but yeah, I think Ellis Robinson is obviously a good player. I think he's kind of starting to figure it out at Georgia. You kind of go deeper. There's like Jalen Braxton who kind of enters into the equation, who is a good player at Arkansas, then got hurt, and now I think he's at Ole Miss and playing for them. Cormani McLean, of course, who's starting at Florida. Look, I think the
Who's
cornerback
the guy at
recruiting.
Ohio State that they kind of
Oh,
sniffed around on?
Jalen Matthews. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
was looking.
plays.
Yeah, he's kind of a baller. I feel like that's hard though because like he was committed to, or was he committed to Ohio State? I think he was committed to Ohio State, and Miami tried to like flip him in the fall.
Right.
So
I
I think
mean,
they got some momentum there. They never really even got him on campus. So, but yeah, they definitely tried, and they tried with like a lot of these like
right.
top guys. As far as just the way a lot of these guys are performing now, like yeah, Jalen Matthews is probably up there. I mean, he's a baller. I believe if he doesn't start, I think he's like the number three corner at Ohio State.
Yeah.
So he's playing a lot and he's good. Ellis Robinson, I think is he starting at Georgia? I think he
Yeah.
is now, and he like had his first career pick over the weekend or last weekend. So like he's really good. But in general, I mean, I feel like OJ
They hit.
Frederick, yeah,
They hit
he
on OJ.
exactly.
So
They definitely hit on OJ, and they obviously didn't hit on a lot of these corners. It wasn't in the best spot before they kind of went heavy in the transfer portal. But OJ was a huge, I think, hit for the staff.
Kane Crew 515 asks, through 2 weeks, which player not named Malachi Tony has been the team's biggest surprise?
Team's biggest surprise through 2 weeks. I don't know. I think
I
for
go two
me,
guys.
yeah, I think one of them for me I think Keontae Scott is probably
Yeah,
better than I thought.
he's
I
good.
thought he was going to be a good player, but I think he's better than
He's been
I
important.
realized. Yeah, he has been, and I even think, and I mean, we'll talk more about USF obviously later in the week, but I think in this USF game he's going to be super important
Oh,
when it
USF
comes to,
gave Miami's nickel issues, a
yeah,
ton of issues
yeah.
last year.
I think
It was a problem.
he's probably going to be, I think, one of the most important players in that game as far as just assisting, which getting the quick passing
Yes.
game,
Yep.
helping stop the quarterback run. Like I think
Yep.
Keontae Scott's going to play a major role in that game. But yeah, I think he's definitely been one. I think
I like that one.
CJ
For
Daniels
sure. He's better
is
than I expected.
yeah. It,
Um, and I would put David Blay there too. I think David
yeah.
Blay is good,
Yeah,
honestly. Like
David Blay is
he's an
definitely
NFL guy,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think like Jacoby Thomas is definitely someone who I think we came around on
Yeah, we did.
after I mean maybe before the season we came around on, but he's actually been good too. So it's not like I feel like
Yeah.
that's good. Like someone over the last maybe month or so that we kind of turned around on. Um, I'm trying to think of anyone else like in particular. I guess maybe I mean Samson Okunlola. Like I definitely did not have
Yeah.
that. I did not have this rotating in a sixth lineman
Right.
on my preseason bingo card. So I think Samson Okunlola definitely deserves some of Marty Brown. Maybe I think is someone that's fair to bring to the table
Yep.
as like what he's kind of shown in those kind of flashes. So yeah, I think that's a good chunk of guys that I think we feel
They
probably better about.
love they love Brockermeyer too.
Yeah,
So
Rockermeyer has been awesome.
AL15 asks, I know it's only been 2 weeks, but with the win versus Notre Dame, it feels like playoffs are the expectation, not just the goal. Which recent playoff era national champion and which team from last year's 12-team playoff do you think Miami profiles most similar to and why? Personally, I'd say 2023 Michigan and for the national champion part, and then the last year playoff, he thinks Penn State and Notre Dame, but he'd be curious on our thoughts. So I national champion, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I could
That's
see
tough.
the 2023 Michigan, but man, they were just so much more physical
Yeah.
to
Like
me.
line of scrimmage wise, like
It was
that was
different. Yeah.
definitely different.
And I think this Miami team can throw it around better than that Michigan team.
Yeah,
So, but
definitely.
that Michigan team could
Different idea. I
mash.
think
Yeah.
yeah, they had it was just different
I see what
identities, I
he's
feel like.
saying though.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
see it. To me, like 12 team playoff, the team I would pick is Oregon.
Mm,
Dylan Gabriel at quarterback,
yeah,
1,200-yard rusher in Jordan James,
yeah,
four pass catchers with at least 590 yards. Their slot receiver was their top pass catcher.
yeah,
Good O line, well rounded defense.
yeah.
To me, I can kind of see a similar
That's a good one.
profile to Oregon.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I don't
So
know. I don't know where I would go with that. I think you're
I
probably
can see
better
where they're
suited to that.
saying too with like Notre Dame and Penn State. I just think
Yeah,
those are those are really physical teams. I
yeah.
don't know if Miami's like on
Penn
that
State had
level.
like 2,000 yard rushers last year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, definitely a different. Again, quarterback play. I would take Miami's quarterback play. I would take Miami's group of receivers. They obviously had elite tight end play with Tyler
Yeah.
Warren and what they did on the back end. I mean, just what they did on defense was awesome, was obviously phenomenal too, with just the personnel that they got over there. So yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, none of these two teams are built the same. Obviously, there's going to be natural
Yeah, you can
differences, but
nitpick
I can
things.
definitely, I think as far as just being like line of scrimmage oriented teams, obviously the offensive philosophies are a little bit
Right.
different, but I can see where maybe he goes there because of just the emphasis on where this roster is maybe just built from, which is inside out, and that is the way that that Mario Cristobal builds it.
All right, let's run through. We got three recruiting questions. Let's run through it and then we'll get out of here with one last question. CFlow 92. How
Ooh.
many more commits do you expect us to take in this class?
How many more commits? So what are we at right now? We're at 22 commits. Yeah, I could see Miami adding, maybe 5 or 6 more guys to the class. I think obviously that's a matter of who you end up being able to flip. But I could definitely see like this is not going to be a
25 is typically the number, right?
yeah, but I
So
think now with roster sizes expanding, I think ideally you would get higher than that. Maybe if it just does again, I think it's just about who
maybe
you can get. But I think 25
I would
is
still this is me talking. I'm not pushing back on what you're
yeah,
saying. I would still do 25 quality and then
quality guys.
and then portal, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You definitely got to keep your portal spots. But I also think it's interesting. I mean, this is a different rabbit hole, David. But I also think it's interesting. I don't know if it's going to hold up. Like you might know better than me, but just when it comes down to this one-time transfer portal window, to me, I think.
Is that
I
a
mean,
go or is that
I don't
just
know if
kind of
it's.
being
I don't know if it's a go. I don't know if it's a go. But if it
let's
is,
have this conversation. Is this it? Because there's talk just for let's set the table. There's talk that they get rid of the spring portal window and only have a winter window, which is what typically December
yeah,
15th to like January 15th or
yeah. I
something
think they
like that.
said it would start on January 2nd.
Okay, so let's say the NCAA goes to only one portal in the winter window. Let me just ask you this: whether or not you like it or not, like let's take that out of the equation. Do you think that would be a good thing for the University of Miami?
Um,
I don't,
no.
because the spring portal has been pretty good to the University of Miami the last 2 years.
So this is just my take on that, and I don't think it would be great for them. I think it requires a whole different
Oh, it's a nightmare to
level
navigate.
of
Yeah,
and just inward perspective. Like you need to be extremely self-aware. And I was telling like a personnel person this, and I mean they agreed. Like you need to be so aware of what's on your roster and where your holes are because you don't have the luxury to again
in the spring you can't
go into
see
the
it.
spring and say, "Oh wait, you know what? We actually don't really like what we have at this particular spot. Let's go get a Keelan Marion, or let's hey, you know what? We actually do
Keontae
really need a
Scott.
nickel, or we
I
need
mean,
a
all these
run
guys
stopping
we
middle
talked about
linebacker."
earlier as guys that are better than we thought, they're kind of all spring portal guys.
Yeah, it's been big. Even the year before, like Simeon Barrow, going on and getting Simeon Barrow. So I think it would be challenging, and that's why a part of it is just like, do you kind of need to go back to over recruiting because at the end of the day you're going to need guys you're going to need if you
I just
miss
think
or
you
you
could.
don't address everything in the winter you better have some answers on your roster on guys that you recruit like I think again, we don't I don't know if this is into effect right now, but if people are going to begin approaching it that way, like I don't
To
know, to
me,
me you still need to obviously I'm super pro portal, but if it's pro one window and it's in the winter,
you got to be cutthroat.
you
That's
got
where
to
I
be
think the
super
difference
cutthroat
is.
and you need to be I think you have to do I think aside from being a really good head coach, I think having a GM that's willing to kind of like look at you between your eyes like and say, "Hey, you need to either cut this or this sucks and is not good enough and we need to go do this right now." It can't be like there can't be any sort
Okay,
of like
right.
massaging these situations like
Here's the other issue, though. Let's say Miami's good. Let's say Miami's a Final Four team.
yeah.
The portal opens while you're making this run.
Yeah.
Are you going to be cutthroat enough to say, "Hey, Emery, we're going to bring in this transfer portal quarterback on a visit"?
Yeah.
Like,
You have to be.
right?
You have to be. Like you can't, you don't have, I just think there's no
There's
luxury,
one window,
there's no room to massage these situations. Like there's not.
right?
There's not any room to because you can't do that. And
But
like
this
you,
is a challenge, right? I
a
mean, we're
hundred percent,
like,
100%.
this is much
And
easier
these are rich,
said than
and
done.
these are like, these are first world problems. Like saying, hey, we're on a
But
deep playoff
that's
run. Yeah, it is,
but
but you
that's a
gotta,
big issue. That's
it's
a
gonna be a huge issue.
massive issue
It's
for
gonna be a
these
huge issue.
college football playoff teams.
Huge issue. But
Like
again, like you,
Georgia, to me, we'll see if Gunnar Stockton ends up being good enough. Maybe he is. The reason why, and if Gunnar Stockton is not good enough, to me, the reason why they don't have a quarterback that is good enough, in my opinion, right now, is because they were on their college football playoff run. They didn't want to
yeah,
run Gunnar Stockton away.
yeah, that's fair. But you can't. You better have guys. That's what I'm saying. You better have guys that you can
But that's
either
easier said than done, though. You
a
recognize
hundred
that.
percent. Oh,
So,
1,000%. 1,000%. I recognize that. But again, to me, it's gonna take a new level of like it's gonna have to be one of those things where it's just like I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It's going to be difficult for sure, but there's no room to because what then like for Miami, all right? Georgia's one thing, right? Because Georgia recruits top one or top
right.
two, top three classes every year. So Georgia having an issue like that obviously is not ideal, but I think you could feel good that you're going to have an elite defense and you're going to have Miami has recruited well, but not in that top tier. Like if you're Miami and you're on a Final Four run, it's got to be all about getting to that again and whatever
Yeah.
that looks like.
Miami
So
needs the portal. And
100%,
I think Georgia's I think everyone's getting to the point where
everyone
you need
is
it.
you got to use it.
But like, okay, let's say Miami spring portal guys aren't on the roster now. Which look, that's a little bit of an unfair thing to say because Miami clearly knew they had the spring portal to go dip into some
Right.
players when they needed it, right? But let's
Yeah.
just take those players off the roster now. Who's your nickel? Who's your other starting safety?
Yeah.
You know, do you beat Notre Dame without those players? That's a
Right.
one score game, 3 point
Mhm.
game.
Yeah.
These
No,
things
you're right.
matter.
100%. 100%.
So
So yeah, I
to
mean,
me, it's not a
it's
good thing for
interesting.
Miami. I
It's
think
not.
it's better
It's
for
not.
the sport. I do think it's better for the sport because it is ridiculous that, and look, I don't think players have done this yet for some reason, but you can insanely leverage your team with a spring portal window there.
Yeah.
So it's better for the sport that you can't do that, but Miami, I think, has to, and every program, this goes for every program. They're just gonna have to. It's gonna be tough
Very.
that
Very.
situation. Uh, who are little Engo asks, who are the top flip targets in the Florida class that you could see coming over to Miami?
Ooh,
So
let's take a look.
this always happens, right? First 2 weeks of
Of
the
course.
season. Who can Miami flip from Florida? Who can Miami flip from Bama, etc. But with Florida, is there anyone that stands out? Miami lost some battles too, because this was Miami went head to head with Florida last year a
Yeah.
ton. Is that the case this cycle?
Yeah, I mean, I think one name that stands out right away is Hezi Kent. He's someone that Miami was extremely invested in just throughout the process. And obviously it was going to be tough to kind of overcome, the Florida tie. And ultimately that was where he ended up. But Hezi Kent definitely stands out as someone who I think Miami could potentially go out and and try to flip. And a lot of these other guys are kind of some of them are, I mean, CJ Brana, again, I think they feel pretty good about their cornerback situation. Never really felt like they, pushed there. Kendall Gervil would be an interesting one, even though I think he just tore his, I think he has like a torn ACL now. Like I think he got hurt as a senior, so maybe that would be a little bit dicey. But he's just a big,
Yeah.
interior defensive lineman that for whatever reason Miami just wasn't able to generate a ton of momentum with. But he could be another one that I think would be interesting.
Danny Miez asks,
Oof.
what recruits do you think realistically would have to commit for Miami to get themselves into the top five for recruiting? So to me, Gabby, this is pretty cut and dry. This kind of
Yep.
comes down to like 3 5 stars.
Yep.
So Miami has one, right? And Jackson Cantwell. How do you find 2 other 5 stars to join the class to get in that top five?
Yeah, I think it would come down to guys like Calvin Russell. Obviously, he's a five-star player, and it's all on the composite. So, and I think Anthony Jones is another guy who's a five-star on the composite rankings as well. So,
Okay.
I think both those guys would be like the I think both those guys would be some of the top kind of targets, but yeah, Anthony Jones is the number 18 overall player. So flipping a guy like Anthony Jones and flipping a Calvin Russell would give you the 3 5 stars, which is kind of like the
The math.
baseline that you would need,
Yeah.
right? The math that you would need to kind of get that done. And then even flipping a guy like Derek Cooper, who's like borderline.
Yeah. Top 50.
He's like the fourth or fifth ranked non 5 star. And then just even a guy like Justice Fitzpatrick right after him, who's a number 44 overall prospect. Like I think if I obviously that's a big ask, but if
Right.
you could flip a group like that and maybe even a James Johnson type, uh, who knows, a Bryce Perry Wright or another one of those top 100 type of guys, I think that that's obviously the path to getting a top five class.
We'll get out of here on this one. Kempt asks, what are your thoughts on quarterback recruiting? Are
Yep.
we all in on transfer quarterbacks, just looking for development guys out of high school? Feels like the year we miss out on the transfer quarterback we want, then we are in big trouble because none of the quarterbacks we have signed out of high school are better than backup quality.
Yeah, so I think the good news here is that Miami has hit on back-to-back transfer quarterbacks. So I think,
Because they will do whatever it takes to
right,
get that transfer quarterback, which
right.
is, pay up.
In both instances, they essentially flipped two guys from the NFL draft because Cam Ward publicly declared for the NFL draft, Carson Beck publicly declared for the NFL draft, and both those guys essentially said they weren't going to the NFL draft to come to Miami. Um, you know,
And both
after
those guys, we'll see how Carson goes. They're
yeah,
going to improve their NFL
absolutely. So
chances.
far, Carson Beck, I mean, the conversations that I've heard just through 2 weeks on Carson Beck, it seems like the tone is absolutely changing as far as just the way
Yes.
people analyze and view him as a prospect. So,
And Miami is paid up big for these players, right? Believe whatever you want to believe with the numbers that are out there. But let's just say those numbers are the numbers. Again, if Miami got incredible value for Cam Ward last year.
yep,
If this season continues the way we think it's going to continue, they're once again going to get value with Carson back.
yep. And again, and if those numbers are out there, that's honestly not a bad thing
Right.
because people know that they can get paid by coming to play quarterback at Miami. And so that is a win because they know that Miami is paying top dollar for premium quarterback play. And they're also doing good things with those quarterbacks. They're not just paying guys that aren't performing, they're paying guys who are performing and getting better and improving their draft stock. If Carson Beck plays his way into, a top 3 round draft pick, like that is a significant win for the program for developing the first or for getting the first overall pick and then revitalizing Carson Beck's quarterback career. So they will have opportunity to get transfer quarterbacks, both financially and because of what they've done on the field. So that's the first most important point because I think that that's
They're a destination now.
yeah, you become a quarterback destination, and for top tier transfers, which I think is it's
Good thing.
dicey. It's a dicey in the moment type of thing.
Well,
That's a dicey
because
game
of
to play in the moment,
negotiations,
right?
because, it's a cat and mouse
For
game.
sure, for
And
sure. And
yeah,
you have to
sometimes it
wait,
can
and
go
sometimes
sideways.
it takes patience, and yeah, there's definitely ups and downs with it, and it causes, I think, fans to hold their breath a little bit. And so
Sure.
I get it from that perspective. But at the same, and at the same time, Miami still wants to recruit high school quarterbacks. And, as we're recording this podcast, I dropped a note on InsideNew.com on our message board that Miami's top 2027 quarterback target, Trent Seaborn, is visiting for the USF game this weekend. So that is their top 2027 quarterback. Like that is their guy. I don't think that they're moving really on to anyone else until they know for certain whether or not they're going to get Trent Seaborn. This is going to be his third visit down. So this is a big trip. He went to South Carolina last week, and from what I understand and what I have heard is that Miami feels like South Carolina is potentially the biggest threat in this recruiting process. I think there are other schools involved, of course, but I think South Carolina, Miami are two top contenders for Trent Seaborn. So we'll see where things stand kind of coming out of this weekend with Trent Seaborn. And Miami absolutely wants to recruit high school quarterbacks. But for me, I mean, this is just me talking, obviously not speaking for anyone or for speaking for the program or whatever. But for me, if you can go out and get a top tier transfer quarterback every winter, like that's
Do it.
that's the world I want to live in because you kind of get to skip a lot of the other parts of the messiness that can
Quarterback
come
is a
with.
crapshoot. It's
Yeah,
not even,
it's
it's just the
hard.
the position.
Yeah,
Like the most important thing with quarterbacks is experience,
yeah,
right? And so if you can go get a guy that has experience and has produced, like Miami situation, they're going to give you a good O line.
yeah,
They run a good system for quarterbacks. It's pretty plug and play, like at this point. And
yeah,
so there's, to me, it's a lot less risky
yeah,
doing that than like even gambling on a high school guy you have on your roster.
yeah.
So I don't
I'm
know.
with you. I'm with
To
you.
me, it's about risk. Like,
Yeah. And it's just like I feel like in this age
and
of
look
college
at,
football that we're in, it's a new team every year. It's not like no one has the ability to go shake things up. Like every year, it's essentially a brand new team. And of course, you have some of your foundational spots that Miami's done a really good job with, like the offensive line, the lines of scrimmage, and all those things. But otherwise, it's like you're kind of piecing your roster together. Like every year, there are significant pieces of your roster that you need to kind of situate and figure out. And we're in an era now where there are different paths to get that done. And if there is clearly a path to upgrade your quarterback situation to put your program in the best possible position to succeed for that season, I mean, to me, that's the most important thing is winning games and finding a quarterback who's going to give you the best chance to win football games. And I think what we've learned through this process is oftentimes going out and paying premium dollar for the best possible quarterback that you can find. And I'm
I
cool
think
with that.
we saw it in week one too. Like, there's all these premier matchups in week one
Hmm.
nowadays, right? And week one, we saw Carson Beck go against CJ Carr. I think CJ Carr is pretty talented. I think he's going to be fine in the long run. But to me, the reason why Miami won that game, yes, they won the trenches. They also had the
Better
big
quarterback.
quarterback advantage.
Yeah.
Um, I think you would agree. DJ Lagway is a talented guy. He's probably going to figure it out in the long run, but he needs time to figure it out in the
Yeah.
long run.
Right.
Arch Manning needs time to figure it out in the long run. That position's about reps and reps and reps. And you don't like practice reps at that position. Yes, they matter, but it's comparing apples and oranges. That's the one position in football that you can't replicate in practice. Uh, Julian Sayin, I think, is going to take time. FSU beat Bama with an experienced quarterback.
Yep. And
Uh,
Bama had a first like quarterback starting for the first time.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
So, and look, especially again, these premier games, like the last time Miami had a schedule that like gradually built up to a good team, I think was like 2017 when they had like Bethune on the schedule. I think like Arkansas State was there, but that was canceled because of a hurricane. Then they had like Toledo, then they had Duke, and then they played Florida State. So if you're playing with a young quarterback that has that kind of nice little gradual buildup, then maybe you can make that argument. But man, you look at the schedules now moving forward, and like Miami's starting next year at South Carolina.
Which is going to be 100,000 deep.
Yeah, I mean
Rocking.
you're gonna want a guy that's done it, and because you gotta win that game, you can't have a loss on your schedule coming out of that game. So Yeah, and I think in general, like this is just how college football is going to trend. I think the top 10 teams, top 15 teams are going to just lean into like, all right, we're going to bring in experienced quarterbacks. Because I don't know if, like, again, this year, is Manning going to work out? Is Carr going to work out? Is Lagway going to work out? Is Sayan going to work out? Is Gunnar Stockton going to work out?
Hmm.
Some of those guys will, but I don't think it's going to be like 100% hit rate on those guys this season. Now, in
Right.
the long run, I think they'll figure it out. But it's just it's a position where if you can mitigate the risk of like, yeah, I don't know, it's the most important position, and I don't know how it's going to go. Why wouldn't you do that? To me.
Right. I'm with you.
All right, that was good conversation. Question and answer session, mailbag time. USF week. We'll do a USF preview here later in the week. Appreciate everyone for listening. Go support us on InsideTheU.com. Go subscribe. It's going to be a fun year. Um, Appreciate everyone. Till next time, take care.